Welcome to Guide to Points. In today's video, we're going to talk about how using points can take the sting out of travel plans that go wrong. We're going to talk through my real life situation that just happened and provide some tips to make things go smoothly if our travel plans go wrong in the future. Recently, my daughter and I set off on a dream trip to Rome, Italy. So what happened was our Southwest flight from Salt Lake City to Denver got rerouted to Colorado Springs. And by the time we got back to Denver, we had missed our Air France flight to Rome. So we did try to salvage our trip. We looked at flights going to Rome from other airlines. We also looked at alternative locations that we could travel to. We thought about staying in Denver. But after all of that, it was looking bleak. So ultimately, because at that point we'd already become exhausted and it was in the evening and the flights going out were becoming limited, we decided to fly back home to Salt Lake City. We learned a lot from this experience. So let's go through everything and see how we came out at the end of all of this. First, we'll talk about flights. Our flight from Salt Lake to Denver was rerouted due to weather, which is something that the airline cannot control. So it's important to note, airlines don't usually reimburse you for things they can't control like the weather. And by the time we arrived back in Denver, our delay was 2 hours and 55 minutes from our original arrival time. Most airline delay policies are 3 hours, so we missed that by 5 minutes. I went ahead and filled out the delay form online at southwest.com anyway, because it's worth a shot. I also canceled our return flight from Denver to Salt Lake City that we had in a couple days, and the points were back in my account immediately. The taxes and fees went back to my American Express Southwest Gold card that I paid those with originally. However, to get back home from Denver, I booked a Southwest flight with money because Southwest is pretty cheap, but I should have done something different that I'll discuss later in the lessons learned portion of this video. Air France, because we missed our flight out of Denver, I went to the app to cancel our booking and there was a form to request reimbursement. I went ahead with that process and within minutes received notification that I would get a refund right away. Points immediately showed up in my Air France account and the taxes and fees will show up between 7 and 10 business days to my original form of payment. There is a $75 per person cancellation fee, but when I called, I paid with my Chase Sapphire Reserve business card because it has a travel credit. So I will be getting reimbursed and that will make that cost $0. On to the hotel. So while we're sitting at the tarmac in Colorado Springs, I'm looking at the cancellation policies for everything we had booked, including our hotel, and it said we could cancel our reservation before 11:59 p.m. that day. However, what I failed to notice is that it would have been the hotel's local time in Rome, which was about 8 hours ahead of us. So we were past the deadline to cancel because it was 5 p.m. our time. So I did call the hotel at 8 p.m. our time, and by then I got their answering machine because it was in the middle of the night there. So I called Hilton's customer service and got a nice agent who said it was up to the hotel. So she contacted them and unfortunately they said they would not refund the reservation. They would not budge at all. So I am still going to email the property directly and explain what happened in a very polite manner and see if I can get anything like a partial refund or even if they would consider moving our booking to a different date because we still want to stay there when we redo this trip. So right now on the hotel, we're not really out anything, even though we won't get our points back, but points are free. Even the daily taxes they were going to take out was on my American Express Platinum card, which has a $50 per quarter Hilton credit. So I'm going to be reimbursed for those anyway. So again, points are free. We're just going to let those points go if we lose them because we can always earn more points and they didn't cost us anything. In perspective, though, if we had paid cash for this hotel, we would have lost $2,304. As I mentioned before, we had booked some activities and tours through the Chase travel portal using points, and my rule for this is always to book the refundable activities. Usually you'll still have a certain window of time to cancel the activity before it begins, and you do need to pay attention to those. But for example, we had a tour to Pompeii, and I just went in and clicked the button to cancel it because we were within the time frame to cancel. The other activity that I had scheduled was for the Vatican tour, and it didn't have an option to cancel. So as I was looking into that, I realized I broke my own rule and I didn't book the refundable option. So that tour was not refundable from the get-go. That was my mistake. The other tour that I had lined up was for the Colosseum. I had booked that through Viator. We had a window where we could cancel, but we were now past that window. But the company had been messaging me directly to confirm it. So using that chat feature, I messaged them and explained that we missed our flight. We're still trying to get to Rome. And was there any way that they could move our tour? And they were really nice. They said that they would be willing to move our tour to another day. But if we weren't going to make it at all, they could not refund us our money. Luckily, I paid for that tour with that same Chase Sapphire Business Reserve card. So I had actually already been reimbursed for that on my statement. So it was free anyway. So we're not out of anything on activities except for points. And again, points are free. We're going to let those go because you can always earn more points and they didn't cost us anything. So in summary, because we used points for most of this trip, we weren't out anything. We used points for our flights, which we mostly got back. We just have a little bit of taxes and fees that we paid for the Southwest flight from Salt Lake City to Denver. And we're going to count the money that I paid for that ticket from Denver back to Salt Lake that was a mistake. I'm going to call that the cost of learning your lesson or the cost of experience. We really didn't lose anything on the hotel, even though they wouldn't give us our points back. But again, points are free. They don't cost us anything. The taxes were on that credit card that offered a Hilton credit. So that's going to be $0. The tours that I booked through the Chase travel portal with points, again, even though on the one tour I didn't get my points back, but points are free. So the other tour I had also booked on that Chase Sapphire card, so I'm going to get credit back for that. It's $0 for activities. Technically, I paid $12 for airport parking for the day that we flew to Denver and back. So we're going to count that $12. So all in all, our quick trip to Denver and back cost us around $300. Lessons learned. So even though you're frustrated and panicked and tired when something like this happens, you need to sit down, take some deep breaths, relax, and think through. For example, when we decided that we were just going to fly back home from Denver to Salt Lake, I just got in the Southwest app without thinking and booked that flight. I used money, and what I should have done is looked at our bookings because we already had a return flight. I should have just changed that flight and used that to fly home because it was free with my points. Also, always double check that your bookings are refundable. Keep track of the deadlines to cancel. Also, what I learned from this is that in the future, I am not going to book any activities that require tickets on our first day, especially in another country. Because when you have a buffer, and you need to cancel, that can be a great thing. There are always things that don't require reservations or tickets that you can walk around, get to know the city that you're in on the first day. So that is a perfect time to do that. And again, it gives you that little buffer or a window of time to cancel if you need to. I hope this helped you to realize how valuable points really are, especially when your travel plans go wrong. Remember, your journey is not my journey. You may decide to do things differently depending on your situation if this ever happens to you. But always remember that wherever your points take you and whatever happens, just enjoy the journey.